Hi, I'm McGrath, and I'm here at the Pickleball Club at Newport Beach, and this is my signature paddle with Franklin Pickleball. This paddle weighs in at an average of 7.8 ounces and offers a perfect blend of stability and maneuverability, featuring a soft polymer core and a fiberglass hitting surface enhanced by MaxGrit technology for maximum spin. The CM signature paddle was designed to help you dominate your opponent in every category. So when I was creating this paddle, there are a few things that were really important to me. The first thing is that this paddle has great control, and what that means is that you get an even response across the entire paddle. So when you're doing a skill such as blocking, you can pretty much hit it anywhere on the paddle and you'll get the same response. Another key feature of this paddle is it has great power, and what that means is that you can drive through balls and hit attack shots with ease, and it still feels like you have a great blend of power and control. Regarding the surface, it's actually maxed out on the grittiness, which means that you can get a ton of spin on the ball, and that's really important for my game. I also wanted to mention that this paddle has a long enough handle so that you can fit two hands on it if you have a two-handed backhand, which is something that I use in my game. Now let's check in with Ben and Kristen to get their thoughts. Guys, what did you think of my paddle?
Thanks, Christine. Well, we really liked your paddle. The first thing that I noticed when I picked this paddle up is it weighs 7.8 ounces, so a great average weighted paddle for both power and maneuverability. But the first thing was the MaxGrit technology. Now, a lot of technologies in paddles are always built into it. You can't see them, or sometimes you can't feel them, but this is one of those things that you can feel right off the bat. If you touch the face of your paddle, this thing does have the MaxGrit, and you can tell right away. It's really good for my third shot drops. When I did hit those shots, I like to cut the ball so it back spins and kind of dies up at the kitchen line, and you could see that right away when I was doing that. Now, I do double what Christine said about the power of this paddle. The weight is seemingly up a little bit head heavy, so it really shined for me when I was hitting ground strokes and when I was hitting serves. I really got that extra power. So what I did is I rode with the strengths of this paddle, and I redesigned my game a little bit, where I would always, 9 out of 10 times, I would drop a third shot in. On my return, I would hit a lot of ground strokes, smashing the ball and get it into kind of different rallies to take the strengths of this paddle to the next level. Now, another thing that I agree with Christine is the blocking. This thing did have a lot of weight and power up in the middle of the paddle, so anytime my opponent would rip the ball at me and I would get any type of my paddle on it, I was able to get it over the net. But the sweet spot has a ton of power, so I did have to reel it back. Whenever I had time to contact the ball, I would go about 80% of my swing and still have enough power to win the rally. Overall, this paddle shined in 3 categories for me: spin, in the ground strokes, and my serves.
The more I played with this paddle, the more I got dialed into the playability and how it performed best. As Ben mentioned, I also noticed that the concentration of the weight was towards the very head of the paddle, and that's where the paddle came to life for me. When I found that spot, that's where I got the most power and pop. Finding that spot at net, I could really strike through my volleys, and the balls were really penetrating through the court. And then from the back, same thing. I was impressed with how much power I could tap into and how low the balls would stay over the net and kind of skid off the ground if I was really whipping through my ground strokes. And then at net on blocks is where the control really stood out to me. I felt the paddle handled pace really well. It felt really solid, and I could just have a good handle on whatever was thrown at me on the defensive. There were a couple areas where I struggled. One was gauging the depth on my shots. As much as I tried to find that sweet spot, I noticed if I hit outside of it, the balls would die off on me a little bit. And then the other area was when I was going for those low shots, especially on the stretch. Because of that head-heavy nature of the paddle, it would drag on me a little bit, and it wasn't quite as whippy as I would prefer for really being able to flick the ball and getting good touch on those low, kind of trickier shots. So overall, I think this paddle is going to cater really well to the aggressive player who's going to commit to every shot and use the weight of the paddle to really power through their opponent. For more information on this paddle and to check out all the specs, be sure to click the link below in the description or check us out at totalpickleball.com.